All right, so we're diving into the death of Jade Winston.
Back in 2007.
That's right, 2007. And we've got a lot of material to dig through here.
We do.
Police reports, witness statements, forensic analysis, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be a straightforward one.
Oh, no, not at all.
So are you ready to play detective?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
All right, so this case starts out in Carrier Mills, Illinois. It's a small town, and from what I understand, everyone knows everyone.
Pretty much, yeah.
And on a summer night in 2007, 18-year-old Jade Winston is found dead in her apartment.
With a gunshot wound to the temple.
A gun is found near her body, so naturally the police assume.
Suicide, open and shut case.
Seems like it, right?
Yeah, but then...
There's more to the story.
Oh, yeah, there are a lot of things that don't add up.
And some of the evidence that we have here just doesn't seem to point to suicide.
Right, from the beginning, there were inconsistencies at the crime scene.
Like what?
Well, for instance, the blood flow on Jade's face.
Okay.
It's flowing upwards.
Upwards.
Yeah, defying gravity, as we know.
Yeah, that's not right.
That's not the only thing.
No, I noticed that too as I was going through the case files, but
Yeah.
It's not just the blood flow, it's the position of the gun, the missing shell casing.
Exactly.
A lot of things that just don't seem to point to suicide.
So if we rule that out,
Then what?
well, then we got to consider the other possibilities.
Oh, like an accident?
An accidental shooting or even
Foul play.
foul play
Okay, and to complicate matters even more, we've got this whole web of relationships.
surrounding Jade. Yeah.
So we've got Jade's sister, Gianna. She's living in the apartment with her, along with her roommate, Jory.
Right.
And then Gianna's boyfriend is Isaac.
Who was also Jory's brother.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so it's a very, very tight-knit group.
Oh, yeah. Very intertwined.
Very intertwined. So right from the beginning, we've got to understand these relationships because they might provide some insight into what happened.
Absolutely. They could offer potential motives.
Motives, yeah.
Insights into the events leading up to Jade's death.
Okay, so let's talk about some of these relationships. And I think one of the first people that pops up that's of interest is Peter,
Peter.
Jory's ex-boyfriend.
Right. He kind of appears in a lot of these witness statements.
He does, yeah. What's his story?
He's a very complex figure in this case.
Okay.
He had a very tumultuous relationship with Jory,
Okay.
marked by accusations of possessiveness and even violence.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he seems to have known about Jade's death before anyone else,
Really?
which raises suspicions immediately.
So almost like he was expecting it, or...
It's very strange, yeah.
Okay, so did the police look into him?
They did,
Yeah.
but there's no concrete evidence linking him directly to the scene.
Okay.
No forced entry.
Okay.
His fingerprints weren't found on the gun, and his alibi, although shaky, couldn't be definitively disproven.
So he's a person of interest,
Yeah.
but there's nothing concrete.
Right?
Okay, so what about Jade's boyfriend, Nick?
Ah, Nick.
They had a bit of a rocky relationship.
From what I understand, yeah, it was quite volatile.
Witnesses describe their relationship as passionate,
But volatile.
but volatile.
Yeah.
So what role could he have played?
Well, Nick was known to be unfaithful,
Okay.
and the pair had a heated argument on the phone just hours before Jade's death.
Oh, wow.
So that's certainly a potential motive right there.
Jealousy can be a powerful emotion.
Oh, absolutely.
Did investigators consider him a suspect?
Absolutely. But
Okay.
again,
Yeah.
his alibi checked out, and there's no evidence he was anywhere near the apartment that night.
Okay.
He was actually out of town when the shooting occurred.
So we've got these two individuals so far, Peter, the ex-boyfriend of the roommate, and then you've got Nick, the boyfriend of Jade. Both seem like they could have played a role, but their alibis checked out.
Yeah.
And then the case takes a really, really tragic turn.
It does.
Just 27 hours after Jade's death,
Her brother Jerome
her brother Jerome dies.
in a car crash.
In a car crash.
Under very suspicious circumstances.
This poor family. Can you imagine?
It's devastating.
So we've got Jade's death, and then less than 24 hours later, we've got the death of her brother.
And it really makes you wonder, are these two tragedies connected?
Yeah.
Was Jerome's death truly an accident, or was there something more sinister at play?
Well, we know that Jerome was very affected by Jade's death.
Of course.
Witnesses even say that he confronted Peter
Oh,
for
really?
accusing him of being involved.
Wow.
So it's understandable that he would be in a very fragile state of mind.
Absolutely.
And that fragile state of mind could explain some of the circumstances around his death.
It could.
So tell me about those circumstances. What happened?
Well, according to the police report,
Okay.
Jerome was seemingly intoxicated
Mm-hmm.
and driving at an extremely high speed.
Okay.
The crash itself was violent,
Okay.
and there was another man in the car, someone named Chris, who was ejected during the impact.
But Chris, who's Chris?
That's a question that the police were never able to definitively answer.
Really?
Neither the family nor any of Jerome's friends seemed to know this Chris character.
So he just appears out of nowhere.
He seemingly appeared out of nowhere and vanished just as quickly.
Oh my goodness, that just adds another layer to this whole mystery.
It really does.
And I'm assuming that this fueled suspicions that Jerome's death wasn't just a random accident.
It did. The family, particularly Jade and Jerome's mother, Mary, believed that Peter might have had something to do with Jerome's death.
Oh, okay.
They pointed to the confrontation between them and rumors that Peter might have been chasing Jerome the night of the crash.
So we've got 2 deaths, a tangled web of relationships, a lot of unanswered questions. Where do we go from here?
Well, in the next part of our deep dive, we'll examine the various theories the police explored the inquest that ruled Jade's death a homicide,
Okay.
and some surprising twists and turns that further complicate the case.
Oh, this is just getting good. Can't wait to unpack it all with you.
Me too.
All right, we'll be back after a quick break. So we left off with 2 deaths, a town full of gossip, and a whole lot of unanswered questions.
Oh yeah, the police were definitely under a lot of pressure.
I bet facing 2 suspicious deaths in such a short time. So where did they even begin?
They were exploring all sorts of theories.
Like what?
Well, everything from a jealous ex seeking revenge to a possible drug deal gone wrong.
A drug deal?
Yeah, they were looking into Isaac, remember?
Oh, right. Isaac Jenna's boyfriend and Jory's brother.
Exactly. They thought maybe he was involved in something that went south.
Interesting. And I remember reading something about polygraph tests.
Oh, yeah, they administered those to some of the key players.
And did anyone fail?
Well, Jory, the roommate, she failed hers.
Oh, really?
But later, it came out that she was actually covering for her brother, Isaac.
About the gun.
Yeah, about the gun being his.
So not necessarily guilty of the murder itself, but just trying to protect family.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so that's a dead end. But
Yeah.
it still doesn't tell us who killed Jade.
No, it doesn't.
So what happened next in the investigation?
Well, the coroner decided to hold an inquest.
An inquest. I've heard that term before, but remind me, what exactly is an inquest?
It's basically like a public hearing where a jury examines all the evidence, listens to witness testimonies,
Okay.
and then they determine the manner of death.
So it's like a mini trial.
Yeah, you could think of it that way.
Okay. Focused solely on how someone died.
Exactly.
Interesting. So they put together this inquest, and what did they conclude?
Well, after hearing from everyone,
Yeah.
the medical examiner, investigators, are all sorts of witnesses.
Oh.
The jury ruled that Jade's death was a homicide.
Wow. So that had to be a major development for the case.
It definitely validated Jade's mother, Mary,
Right.
who always maintained that the suicide theory just didn't add up.
Makes sense, but did it help narrow down the suspects?
Sadly, no.
Really? So even with this ruling, the investigation still hit a wall.
Yeah, they ruled out suicide, but they still didn't have enough to go on.
So what were the roadblocks?
Well, the lack of physical evidence directly linking anyone to the crime,
Okay.
the conflicting statements from witnesses,
Right.
and the absence of a clear motive.
It's like the classic whodunit dilemma.
It really is.
So what happened next? Did the case just go cold?
Well, not entirely. In 2010, a former FBI agent was brought in
Okay.
as an independent forensic consultant.
To take a fresh look at the case.
Exactly, to review the files and offer a new perspective.
And what did he find?
He actually concluded that Jade did, in fact, commit suicide.
Wow, that's a complete 180 from the inquest findings.
Right.
So what led him to that conclusion?
He really focused on the physical evidence,
Okay.
like the bloodstains, the position of the gun. He
Okay.
was trying to reconstruct the scene.
Yeah.
But in doing so,
I missed something.
he overlooked a crucial detail,
The blood flow.
the upward flow of blood on Jade's face.
Right, that doesn't make sense with a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Exactly, and it's odd that a seasoned investigator would miss something so significant.
It is. And what's even more frustrating is that the sheriff's office didn't pursue further analysis from blood spatter experts.
They cited budget constraints.
So a potentially crucial piece of evidence left unexamined because of a lack of funds.
Unfortunately, yes.
That's got to be heartbreaking for Jade's family.
It is.
So after that, did the investigation completely stop?
It seemed like it was headed that way.
Okay.
But then there was a major development.
Oh, what happened?
The lead investigator, Todd, was arrested.
Wait, arrested for what?
He was charged with sexual assault and official misconduct.
Oh, wow, that's serious.
Yeah, it involved a teenage intern at the sheriff's office.
So this obviously casts a shadow over his work on Jade's case.
Absolutely. It throws his credibility into question.
Yeah.
And raises doubts about the integrity of the entire investigation.
And of course stalls any progress on the case itself.
Right.
So Jade's case goes from cold to practically frozen.
Pretty much.
Did anything else happen, or did it just fade into obscurity?
It might have, but last year, Jade's family organized a peaceful protest.
To bring attention back to the case.
Exactly. And it worked.
Good for them.
It reignited media interest and some fascinating new information surfaced.
That's the power of public pressure. So what came to light?
Remember Peter?
Dory's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, well, Jerome's fiance revealed that Peter and Jade were secretly romantically involved.
Hold on. So all this time, we're led to believe that they barely knew each other?
Yeah.
And now we find out they were romantically linked.
Exactly.
That changes everything.
It really does. It reframes the entire case.
Yeah, because now Jory or even Jerome could have had a motive if they knew about this secret relationship.
Right.
And it makes Peter's earlier statement seem much more suspicious.
Oh, absolutely. If he was trying to hide his involvement with Jade, he had every reason to lie.
This is huge. Why wasn't this information uncovered during the initial investigation?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Did the police ever follow up on this new lead?
Well, the sheriff claimed his office was committed to solving the case.
Okay.
But then he admitted that he hadn't even read the complete case files.
Wait, he's in charge of the investigation and he hasn't thoroughly reviewed all the details?
Apparently not.
That's really concerning.
It is, and to make matters worse, they haven't even contacted Jerome's fiance for a formal interview.
Even though she has potentially crucial information.
What's baffling?
It almost seems like they're not interested in pursuing this new lead.
It does make you wonder.
I remember reading something about a footprint on the door, suggesting a possible break-in.
Oh yeah, there are rumors circulating about that.
But it was never officially documented.
No, it wasn't.
So we have potentially crucial information, like the secret relationship and the footprint, that was either overlooked or deliberately ignored by the investigators.
It seems that way.
This just raises serious concerns about their commitment to finding the truth.
It does, and there were other pieces of evidence that seemed to have gotten lost or dismissed.
Like what?
Remember that bloody fingerprint that was mentioned early on?
Oh, yeah.
It was never lifted or analyzed.
So it's like they were picking and choosing which evidence to pursue.
Instead of conducting a thorough and impartial investigation.
It's almost as if they already decided on a narrative and only focused on evidence that fit that story.
You've hit on a crucial point.
Which is?
This case highlights the importance of a truly independent investigation.
Especially when there are concerns about bias or mishandling of evidence.
Exactly. Bringing in an outside agency could provide a fresh, unbiased perspective.
So where does this leave Jade's family?
Still fighting for justice, advocating for a more thorough investigation.
After all these years.
They believe that crucial evidence was overlooked.
Yeah.
And that some key individuals haven't been adequately scrutinized.
It's heartbreaking to think that they've been denied closure for so long.
It is, but it's inspiring to see their determination to keep pushing for answers.
It is, and it makes me wonder if we were to reopen this case today, where would we begin?
That's a great question.
What leads would we prioritize? What new forensic techniques could be applied to the existing evidence?
It's definitely something to think about.
It is, and we'll delve into those questions and more as we continue our deep dive into the unsolved case of Jade Winston.
Stay with us.
You know, it's just tragic how a case like this can slip through the cracks with so many twists and turns and rumors flying around.
Especially in a small town with limited resources.
Exactly, and for Jade's family, the lack of resolution just adds to the pain.
They're left with so many unanswered questions. It's just heartbreaking.
It really is, and it's not just the family. You know, think about all the people whose names have been dragged through the mud forever linked to this tragedy.
Yeah, like Jory, the roommate. She's maintained her innocence all these years, but still lives under this cloud of suspicion.
Exactly. Unsolved cases don't just leave behind victims. They leave behind this cloud of suspicion that can stain so many lives.
It's a ripple effect that erodes trust in the system, fuels paranoia, and just leaves a lasting scar on the entire community.
And it makes you wonder, were there missed opportunities to solve this case? Like, what about those rivals of Isaac's?
The ones from Kentucky.
Yeah, they had motives. Their descriptions matched the witnesses who saw suspicious vehicles, and they were known for violence.
Right, but that lead just seemed to go nowhere.
Maybe a lack of resources, maybe a reluctance to collaborate across state lines. Whatever the reason, it feels like a missed chance to bring Jay's family some peace.
And then there's all the missing information, those undocumented details like that alleged footprint on the door or the bloody fingerprint that wasn't analyzed.
Those could be holding crucial clues. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
You get a vague picture, but you never see the full image.
Right, and I think this case really highlights how crucial meticulous crime scene investigation is.
Absolutely thorough documentation, a willingness to follow every lead, no matter how improbable it might seem.
That's what matters,
And it also highlights the need for independent oversight.
especially when a local agency is struggling to solve a case or there are concerns about bias.
Exactly. Bringing in an outside agency could offer a fresh perspective and maybe even rebuild some public confidence.
So where does that leave us with Jade's case? Is there still hope for justice?
It's hard to say for sure, but by shining a light on these inconsistencies, the missed opportunities, the lingering questions we keep the pressure on,
To re-examine the evidence, maybe pursue new leads, and hopefully bring closure to this tragic story.
and our listeners can play a role too, you know.
Mhm.
Don't let Jade's story be forgotten. Talk about it, share it, contact the authorities.
Right. Sometimes it takes a collective voice to spark action and demand accountability.
Exactly.
We'll be sure to include contact information for the Attorney General's office and the local sheriff in the show notes.
So reach out, ask questions, keep the pressure on.
It's possible that someone out there holds a missing piece of the puzzle.
A memory, they've forgotten a detail. They dismissed a clue waiting to be rediscovered.
The truth is out there somewhere, and for Jade's sake, for her family's sake, let's hope it's found.
I hope so too.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the unsolved case of Jade and Winston. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and never stop seeking the truth.